Three, two, one, and we are live. Greg Franklin, thank you for
Hello.
coming.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm super excited. 6 Point Harness, one of the busier studios, around, in terms of animation. And I'm sure this last year that's only been expanded, because as we've been all kind of experiencing now is this boom in animation. And
Yes.
I think one of the maybe byproducts of that is the people who maybe went into a project not thinking it was going to be animation, and then having to pivot because of the circumstances. And so we saw a lot of
Sure.
in the last year, live action TV series do a whole season animated or do a finale animated. And I don't know, in this case, as we're talking about your contributions to the upcoming stand-up comedy special for Tig Notaro called Drawn, which was an animated 1 hour stand-up special where you kind of shepherded 150 animators to kind of produce hour-long animated stand-up special, which I don't think we've really seen that before. I don't think we've really seen anything like to this magnitude before. And I
That's
wonder,
true.
is this like a chicken or the egg type scenario in terms of
well, well, to answer the first part of the question, this it would be very fair to make the assumption that this is a pandemic, a practicality issue. However, this project has been conceived well before the pandemic.
Wow.
And was even greenlit before the pandemic. We first were in contact with Tig, I think around October, November 2019. Created a pitch package with a lot of different styles in it, and went pitching around early February. I believe we pitched to HBO around I want to say like second to last week of February, and we're greenlit the following week.
Oh, great.
And so we were all like, this is awesome. And then March happened.
Yes.
And we all had to go home. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, we had to kind of, rethink our whole production pipeline, as everybody did. And I have to give credit to all of our amazing people in operations at 6 Point, because we were kind of up and running with everybody's home, computer in their house in like 3 days. And from there, it took a while to get the deals done. That always takes forever.
Sure.
So I just sat there listening to endless hour. I mean, we had several days worth of tapes of Tig's stand up that I would kind of just listen to over and over and over again. And you're right, this is the first of its kind. There has never been an hour long stand up special. Obviously, there's been tons of animated stand up in shorter form throughout the years, even a TV series back in the early 2000s on Comedy Central. But I started doing, just kind of for fun as like a side thing, just kind of working with comedians on, short things. Like I worked with, Kyle Kinane, Jackie Cation, Wyatt Cenac, I did this crazy episode of Comedians in Cars, Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. And I thought that was a full circle moment, sort of, but and I did most of this work like 10 years ago.
Sure.
But this is really like kind of the benchmark, if you will, of because it's never been done. And I was pretty adamant that there would not even be one frame of live action footage in this at all. So there we go. Like there have been some specials where the comedian's on stage and we cut away to animated jokes,
Sure.
but never anything to this scale, and I'm extremely proud of the final result.
Mm-hmm. As you should be. And I think, you know, one thing I got to say about 6-point harness is I don't think you guys have ever, I'm not aware of you guys shying away from any type of project. I feel like that's really been in your guys' DNA. Even when you first found it, I remember coming to the studio years ago when Brendan was there and meeting Ed, and, you know, it was like the early days of like online, and you guys are not afraid to try things to see if they're going to work. And, you know, you guys, I think your reputation speaks for itself. You know, I think with Hair Love, it kind of showed with, you know, working with, you know, Prison Pit and somehow figuring out Johnny Ryan's brain and putting it in an animated form. That's got to be a challenge. And then, you know, so
that was a lot of fun.
I'm sure. And we're going to stick a pin in that one because that's one of my favorite projects ever. Yeah. And then, yeah, like you guys have never, and then of course, Cosmos, all the brilliant things you know, Cosmos is a very underrated series when it comes to animated sequences, and I don't know if it gets talked enough about, probably because the subject matter of the show is so important anyway. Yes, in animation is important, but at the end of the day, there are lessons to be learned in a series like that, you know, right now, when you look back at that show, you look at the past year, and, you know, some of the things that were being talked about in that show are just as relevant, if not more so. So
absolutely,
I think that's always been 6 points, you know, thing was that kind of the idea when you guys really found in the studio to say, hey, you know what, we're just going to take on anything and just figure it out in the end.
In a way, yes. I don't know that was our explicit goal, but, you know, a lot of animation studios sort of have a house style or have like a kind of brand, and you kind of get, you know, the idea of, you know, we kind of thought, like, you know, I think it all came from Brendan's aversion to putting any kind of animated characters on any of our business cards, which is a pet peeve of his. And you know, you just get judged on whatever that character looks like. And you know, we have such a diverse, you know, crew, and everybody is extremely versatile, but they also have their thing. You know, everybody's got their thing, and we've got some folks that are like really into, you know, action comedy stuff, and we have some people that are super into just pure slapstick wacky stuff, and we have people that are into anime, and you know, it's just endless, you know, the passions that of people on our crew. So we try our best to, that's the fuel, you know, like that passion is the fuel that keeps artists going. So when we get when a new project comes up, we kind of look at it like we're gonna put our spin on this, but we're gonna fuel it with the passions of the people that work at 6 Point, and you know, we get everything, and it is kind of a point of pride of ours to kind of be able to be a chameleon, and our sense of verisimilitude is you know, is what we kind of pride ourselves on, is you know, making a custom suit, if you will, for each project that comes out of our doors.
So speaking to that, when you're working on an animated special where you think of a stand-up, when you think of stand-up, you think of it as being a very personal project to the comedian. So where does the studio come in terms of, like, does Tig come in with a vision, and then you guys are deploying that vision, or is it mostly you guys are kind of feeding back on, hey, look, we could really go crazy here, and, you know, every minute can be different than the last?
It was honestly a kind of a hybrid of all of that. So when we met with Tig, there were certain things that she had ideas for sure. You know, I mean, how could you not? You know, like you know, she has the mind that envisions this craziness in the first place, and she kind of said, like, even if I would watch any animated special if it was a whole hour of it, even if I didn't like the comedian, I would watch. Just to see what it is, and what you know, because there's so many possibilities to it. And so she definitely didn't, you know, like, you know, plan everything out visually to the T by any means, but she had ideas. And there was a kind of a funny moment with a spider that happened on one of her tapes, and that spider ended up becoming kind of the mascot of the show in several ways. And so some of these ideas that she had were there from the get-go. But when it came to the bulk of the show and the different styles that we cut to, that was very much, like kind of brainstormed by myself and our team and presented as, here's kind of what we're thinking. And, thematically, like what fits, and also knowing that we've got to keep this thing going for an hour and no one's ever done this before. So we've got to continuously surprise the audience. So every new style we cut to can have nothing to do with the style that preceded it in the show. Yeah. So we've got a constant, so that was another thing that we had to keep in mind as we were, kind of plotting out the arc, the visual arc of this show. So, there were some ideas like early on, the grand finale that we have wasn't the original grand finale. It was actually had to do with the Beatles and Ringo Starr and the song Yellow Submarine.
Oh, wow.
So when we met with Tig, the thinking was that we would kind of do an homage to the film, the Yellow Submarine film, and do some sort of Peter Max inspired, trippy, stuff. But, I think we all figured like we needed a good plan B in case we were not going to be able to secure the rights to the Beatles or that song.
Sure.
And very quickly, the plan B became the plan A.
Yeah.
It was such a great bit that she had kind of presented to us as an option that I said, like, can we just do this instead? This is so good. This is so good. I just couldn't resist.
So you mentioned putting together, listen to a whole bunch of audio and kind of putting this together. What was that like? I imagine it's like looking at 10,000 pieces of a puzzle and trying to figure out which goes where. I mean, walk us through that process.
Well, one of the EPs, Thomas O'Leet, who is part of Tig's production company, he had kind of the unenviable job of listening to all of those tapes, and he made this incredible spreadsheet where each of the bits was ranked in terms of how much the audience laughed, how, all of these things. And so we had this amazing resource, like a roadmap to all of these, that it would have been impossible without. And, his name is Thomas, so we ended up calling it the Thomas Guide. And so, we would kind of delve into that. And that even being said, we would find things sometimes, like there's this wonderful bit that was so visual, and it was like less than a minute long of Tig talking about the fate of her breasts post mastectomy. And it was so visual and so great that it's like, can we do this? Can we actually do this part and wedge it in there, and maybe we can put it in between these things? Because he did kind of create that original, Thomas created that original like order, which was kind of based on, like I guess a logical flow of themes, which is what he based that on. But the original cut that he did, it was like a single take that was deemed like the hero take. So what I did with the editors, we would go in and we would listen to all the different, because she would do the bit multiple times sometimes. And we would kind of find, oh, maybe there's, faster read here, or maybe there's, bigger reaction, here or there. And all of these tapes were, formed that typically when you do a regular stand-up comedy special, these are the tapes that Tig would use to craft, the structure of a show.
Sure.
and use that at a taping, and do the taping like a couple of times, a couple of performances of that hour.
Sure.
And also, the audience is mic'd. There's a clean channel audio on Tig. We didn't have any of that. We had the audience that you hear on Tig Notaro Drawn is coming from Tig's mic. Mm-hmm. Like that's what you hear. So in some cases, we kind of we're treating it a little more like a found audio, the documentary, type of scenario when we had to. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how the show had to be made. Mm-hmm. We certainly couldn't go back and re-record anything in front of an audience.
Yeah, I think that kind of shows a little bit of how funny Tig is. If you guys are capturing audio from her mic and then you're ranking based on how funny or how loud the audience reaction is, that says something about how funny that bit is. So
she is. I swear to God, she is the funniest person alive. Yeah. Like she really is. She is so dry. I mean, my God, she would have us like during these Zoom calls, just like doubled over in laughter because she's so funny. I remember like early on, she's so quick, and I had trouble. I was trying to, present something on a Zoom call, and I was having some technical difficulties. And I said, oh, I'm having trouble sharing. And she said, open your heart. Yeah. I know you had to be there, but we were like laughing for like 10 minutes off of that. It was like, she's so funny. I'll never forget it.
So, and then when you guys are kind of figuring out the animation styles to employ on any one of her bits, what's that process like? Because I've already, seen like, oh, you guys did claymation and you guys did hand, 2D and all this other stuff. So how did you figure out which animation style led to any particular part of the special?
Well, the claymation was there just because we could. We have a new creative director who just celebrated his first year at 6 Point, named Usaid Brooker, who is a total genius and has a background in stop motion animation. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, like, can we do, like clay, like real clay? And he's like, sure. So we had to put that in somewhere. Mm-hmm. The basic idea is like, it's kind of thematic. Like for example, there's a bit about the wisdom teeth thing, and I you listen to it, and it's like, what is the theme of the show? And to me, it felt like the theme of it was kind of people letting Tig down, people being kind of vapid or self-absorbed and not really helping her out when she's in need. And so I was thinking about beautiful people, right? And it got me thinking about Bob Peak and Robert McGinnis and old, like pulp, novel like type of artwork with these just stunning people on it. And it's a way to kind of do realism, like a realistic style, but not, kind of be like too like realistic in a non-stylish way. It's a way to like kind of do everything that we kind of wanted. And so that's what I pitched. And I found a lot of that style, I basically made a mood board and would say, Tig, what do you think of this? And she loved it. And so then we've got to go try to draw that, which is not easy, especially animation style. Yes. So thankfully we have the great, Saharat Tintivaranyu, who, he's the guy, the designer behind Cosmos, and has a way with realism that is stylized. So I was like, this is perfect. And as far as other bits, we had this great bit at the end, that has, and we're going out live and the show's on Saturday. I don't want to give any spoilers or anything, but we had a kind of a new bit, the finale that I was talking to you about. Mm-hmm. And it has kind of a shocking turn in it. And you know, when Tig brought up that style, like right on the spot, she said, like, what animation should this fit, you know, be animated in? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, maybe like Pixar, you know, like Pixar is so weird to me because they're definitely cartoon characters, but they have human skin.
Yes.
And they have pores, and that implies that they have blood and bones and guts. And it always kind of weirded me out a little bit. And I thought, what would it look like if Coco bled to death? You know, like what is that gonna, you know, it's not a scene we're ever gonna get to see in Pixar, but we got to indulge a little bit of that. I know, why not? Why not? Come on, you cowards at Pixar, show us some blood.
Do it.
Guts.
Let's see some sacrificial lambs. Yeah.
I want to see Coco bleed.
Me too. Let's see it. Let's see what Pixar blood looks like. But
let's see.
Yeah,
but yeah. With our minor budget, you know, with our limited budget, we did our best to attempt a parody of the amazing work that Pixar does.
So was there anything because of the pandemic that like maybe you guys had ideas on things that you wanted to do but maybe you couldn't do or you found unpractical because of the transition of putting everybody remote?
Honestly, the only thing, like, you know, we got it done.
Yeah,
we got it done on time and you know, and barely under budget. So, you know, we were I think we had about $5 at the end, you know, sort of something like that. And, you know, like the biggest pandemic hurdle is, you know, part of it is the camaraderie, you know, of everybody being together. That's definitely missed. And the other thing is, you know, as a director, when I'm giving direction to somebody, I can be talking and the other person can be nodding, but I don't really know until they're turning something in.
Yes.
What they're thinking.
Yes.
And I don't know what might be getting lost in translation. And if we were all in the office, I could just walk by their desk and take a glance over. And if something's going, you know, sideways, I can go like, hey, let's what I didn't mean that, you know, you know, this is, I meant this other thing, which is, you know, definitely like, you know, kind of a bummer, but, you know, when you have to wait until the end of the day to see what somebody's been working on.
Yeah.
You know, and other people have said like, oh, you know, why don't you do a check-in, show me what you got at like 2 p.m. or something. And it's like, that just doesn't work, you know, like artists are in the zone and that's just like putting another deadline, you know, in the middle of the day. And that's really not helpful either. You know, it's like people got to be in the zone and that's extremely important. So that was something that was kind of, you know, the occasional miscommunication, you know, roadblock. Sure. We had some great tools, you know, like I have to sing the praises of Sync Sketch, which is a new software to me that allowed me to do real-time reviews on a Zoom call with everybody watching, and everybody can see my screen with the animation underneath it, or with, you know, with everything underneath it. And I can go through and give the kind of stupid little notes that I want to give, like, can he squish down more before he jumps up? You know, like those kind of notes that are hard to put into words.
Sure.
And impractical when you have to go through, you know, like a quick time and pull out every frame, you know, that you want to give a note on, bring it into Photoshop, do a draw over of it. It's just so much prep, you know. Yeah. And if I you know, have a quick time and I have Sync Sketch, I only need like a couple of minutes, you know, like before I'm on with the, you know, normally like in the studio, we would do dailies, you know, and everybody watches everything and everybody knows what's going on. And that's the thing that's really important is it's so important for the team to see like what notes I'm giving to animator X so that animator Y knows what to avoid or what to do or what you know what I mean? That stuff is so important. And we were able to kind of get there virtually with Sync Sketch, and I'm a total convert, and I love it. And even if we do end up going back to the office one day, which I don't think we'll ever do like we did, you know, it'll never be like it was,
right?
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But I love that Sync Sketch, you know, thing, and I'm really looking forward to some of these updates that I am hearing about, like the iPad app. Ooh. I could sit on my couch and give notes. Oh my God. Wow.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because I think COVID may have, because we've had, you know, things like Zoom for a number of years now, but you know, I don't know if it wasn't for COVID, some of the realizations of what can be done in an animation studio virtually really would have come to pass. And then on top of that, I still constantly see every studio hiring today, Greg. Everybody's hiring.
Oh, yeah.
And
dude.
The thing that has to, I'm wondering if, you know, is there going to be a time where, you know, the best talent might not be in Los Angeles. They might be in, you know, they might be in New York. They might be in, you know, just someone, just because
they already are.
Yeah. Just because
they
the
already
nature of the industry right now, everybody's going to be looking for those people. Why not, you know, just start looking in, you know, hey, yeah, I'll hire some guy from, you know, or somebody from, I don't know, you know, like Alabama, who, you know, maybe I see once a year in person, but I know
that day is now, because we worked with animators all over the world on Tig. You know, we had, you know, Australia, Nepal, Mexico City, India, you know, you name it. Like there's the advantage of being in LA and being here is so eroded, you know, like it doesn't make any difference if I'm talking to somebody in, you know, in Mexico City, or if I'm talking to somebody in Silver Lake, you know, it literally, what's the difference? You know, I still just gotta, you know, sit my butt down in front of my computer and talk to them. So, I mean, to be fair, like with Nepal, that's an extreme time difference.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, there were limited check-in times that worked out for everybody.
Yeah.
And also they have like a half hour chunk that's like ahead. So like,
oh, okay.
So if we were meeting at 7 p.m. our time, it was going to be like 8:30 a.m. their time. And it's like, wait, 8:30? Like, how is there a half? What? I don't understand the world as much as I thought I did. Okay. But yeah,
that's fascinating that you guys have, you know, embraced that. And maybe, I don't know if that would have happened. I mean, we've seen, you know, for years, obviously, you know, we've sent, you know, stuff over like, you know, Korea and stuff like that. But this is a little different because it's like now you're getting like an original voice too. You're getting the original intellect of
somebody. Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating is like being able to hire an individual that's in, you know, Ireland or Iceland or Chile or wherever, you know, is it can be so much more direct, you know, when you're dealing with the studio, there's a little bit of a, you know, there's a little bit of wagon circling, you know, that has to go in. And we've been on both sides of that ourselves, you know, at 6 Point, you know, when we've done client work versus when we're doing like original work, and whether we're outsourcing or we're being outsourced, you know, that's natural. And that's just business, you know. But you know, it's really fascinating to, you know, just that was the thing about this Tig thing is we needed people. This was such a giant project that we needed their brains as well as their wrists, you know, and that was the thing. It's like everybody can have a great idea.
Yeah.
And there are so many things about, there's so many details, in the show. Like every frame, even if it was the simplest shot, which was just Tig talking on stage, was had to be so considered in terms of like, is this really Tig? Is this accurate to her? Is this deviate from her realness in a way, but that makes sense in the animated context? Like there's so many things at play here, that we just had to consider everything, everything.
Yeah.
And it was such a great like mixed medium, using CG and claymation, 2D and different types of 2D. Some of the stuff we did was old school flash animation.
Yep.
Some of it was Harmony with fancy rigs and stuff. So, it was a project like no other, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm most excited about this Tig Notaro special is, for the first time in a long time, it's a stand-up special that feels like a special. Like, remember when in the 90s, when there was a special, when Chris Rock announced that, oh, we got a new special, you had to wait for it. You had to, it was a once every couple of years thing. And
it was an event.
Yeah. You got your friends together, you talked about it at work on Monday.
Yeah.
And then, nowadays it feels like, I mean, I think the term special has been watered down a little bit in terms of stand-up. And I feel like this one kind of reinvigorates the term special, because it makes it an event again, like something that you have to kind of see to believe, as opposed to, and I'm not saying I'm not a fan of these, but I feel like Bill Burr's got like 7 specials on Netflix. Is it really a special anymore, or is it like another episode of a 10-episode stand-up series or something like that? So it's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And think about the effort that a comedian will go through to come up with an hour of material.
Yeah,
just them on stage. It's really Herculean, to do that. And you've had certain comedians like George Carlin who would make a new hour every year, and then dump all that material, at the end of it. That's the name of the game, it's crazy. One of the things about this special that was interesting was the hour format itself, because it's a different pace, like the short things that I used to do. Like I did this Kyle Kinane, bit, was the first one I did with the bunnies. And it was a very it's like a slow burn. It's like the Midsummer of, animated, comedy shorts.
Sure.
And then I worked with Jackie Cation, who talks like a mile a minute. And I felt like I needed to animate everything she said. It was all justified. And Tig, it's like, I think it's just like the difference between like when a comedian will do like a late night spot, like a Type 5.
Yes.
On late night TV versus doing an hour. Hours, if you watch them, they're kind of paced out a little bit.
Yeah.
And we kind of wondered, like, is this going to be something that an audience has the patience to sit through? Like, is it going to exhaust people, like this barrage of everything and all this visual stuff and then when we actually started putting the show together, I realized that and especially listening to Tig in her looser moments, she definitely is not afraid of silence on stage.
Yes.
She will let the audience like stew.
Think about it. Yeah.
Sometimes she will let them, and sometimes she'll let it go for a long time. Yeah. And she's a master of like the awkward pause, Yep. And so it gave us an opportunity to really, like wallow in something really awkward and stay there and be along for that ride, when she's like let in like, then she'll puncture it with like a zinger or punchline or something that will release all that tension, which you could really feel it on the tapes. So it was definitely like, she's like the perfect comedian for this,
Yeah.
I think if I had to do an hour of Jackie Cation's material, I would probably have a heart attack. Because she's so, you know, and you have to keep up, you know, and the ebb and flow, the timing of the special is set by the comedian. So Tig's mastery of comic timing cannot be fucked with, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And so it definitely becomes its own different thing when you add animated visuals to it, but she sets the pace, you know, and it would be foolish, you know, to deviate from it. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that I wonder about is like, sometimes I'll see, you know, stand-up bits on YouTube or whatever, where it almost feels like the cartoonist is trying to beat the comedian and for laughs, right? Yes. And I am so against that. I feel like we are there to illustrate the comedy, support the comedy. Our jokes, we can add whatever jokes we want as long as they you know, kind of organically, logically spring from the situation.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing worse that we could do is to add a bunch of like corny animator jokes to this thing. And, you know, I mean, sometimes, I guess I'll say this on record, sometimes animators can be the least funny people in the world. Sometimes, right? And I think it's because animators often toil in anonymity.
Yeah.
And are maybe even subconsciously looking for that moment to shine.
Yeah.
You know, you know, there's so many things where you're watching animation and it feels like the animator will subconsciously separate the visual joke from the verbal joke. So it's like verbal joke, visual joke, right?
I think the only thing worse than an animator who is not funny is one who's trying to be funny. You know, the one, but not really working.
Bad. Well, I know. Yes, I mean, look at you know, these 80-year-old jokes that still pop up.
Yes.
You know, stuff from Chuck Jones. You know, stuff from before Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
You know, like how many times do we have to see somebody splat against the window and slowly eke down? You know, like we're still seeing that literally today.
Yes.
It's like that joke is so ancient.
And in a medium where anything is possible, there definitely is conventions, right?
Yes, exactly. And it gets to the point where it's like, this is like an homage to classic animation, but I feel like we've seen the homage of the homage of the homage at this point. So it's really tough. And you have to have a point of view with your material, and your point of view should not be 90 years old.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Stop with the cover songs, kids. You know, write your own music.
It's crazy.
It's true. So looking forward to the future, what else is 6 Point Harness working on that we're allowed to hear about? Are you allowed to divulge anything about someone? Because you guys are always working on something here. Curious to see if there's anything you're allowed to talk about.
You know, I'm the worst person to ask about this. I am not a spokesman. You know, that is just not my thing. But we're working on. Obviously, we're working on a bunch of really cool stuff that I would love to tell you about. I'm trying to think here if there's anything that is coming out. You know, I'm just going to play it safe and just say the answer is yes, and I can't talk about them, but at the moment, as much as I would love to tell you, there's some amazing stuff that we're cooking up right now.
I think one thing a lot of people would love to see is a reteam of you with Johnny Ryan, because
oh my god,
so good.
Oh,
and
thank you.
so crazy. And it was, I feel like if that waited 2 years, it would have been on Netflix, and it just would have,
Ahead
it
of
would
its
have,
time.
it was so ahead of its time. And it's so good. It's one of the
Oh,
great,
thanks, man.
and I don't even think anybody knows, where can you even find it? Does anybody even know? Like, is it on YouTube? Just like regular YouTube?
It's not. I believe there's a censored version on YouTube that is
Okay.
heavily censored to the point of
Yes.
absurdity.
Yes.
Which it would out of necessity, which I think is funny. I think
Yeah.
there are scenes that are the whole frame is blurred. Yeah. But
I like how YouTube, the company that was, brought to fame by, showing, all sorts of like the craziest stuff you've ever seen.
yeah.
Even Prison Pit was too extreme for YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's really bad now with animation too,
Yes.
with the whole like demonetization thing and
Yes.
the whole thing about animation being for kids. It's so backwards and wrongheaded. It just drives me nuts.
Yes.
I would love to do more Prison Pit. I would love to do it, using, even more cinematics than we had originally done when we did Prison Pit. We came to it very humbly. Like we said, this is a piece of profane artwork, and we are going to be as faithful to the material as humanly possible.
Yes.
And there were times when you couldn't even do that because the comics medium just didn't translate, sometimes with especially with the black and white and everything. So, there were a couple of deviations that we took. And I think that if we do more, we can take more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really getting into, like this was working on Tig was some of my first work in using the CG stuff.
Sure.
And I can't help but wonder like what sweat and dirt and blood and bodily fluids might look if we produced it in Blender, for example, or something like that, which I've been dabbling in, and is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not as hard as I thought it would be. There was always such a great, like technological leap and financial leap. If you were gonna like do, the software has always been so expensive, and that's all gone now, which is fabulous. This Blender thing is a gift to the entire artistic community. And I really love how you can like draw in it too, and do grease pencil animation. So I would maybe want to do some kind of grease pencil Prison Pit. If we do more episodes and get some crazy camera work in there, that'd be a lot of fun.
So you were talking about, there definitely has been for a long time this take on animation that it is a kid's medium, but I do think there are those who are starting to take those chances now, and I think the fruits of those labor are going to come. And as we're a magazine that really only covers adult animation, and I'm busier now. I keep telling telling all my staff, I'm like, 2 years ago summer would be quiet, and now it's like one of the busier seasons, and most of that is because of streaming. And so it's definitely here. And when you see some of the projects we covered this year, like Kirkman's Invincible and all the stuff, I think we're starting to see that some of those boundaries kind of drop a little bit, and it's not just comedy anymore. And I think Demon Slayer getting as much money in the box office this past year as it did, that's going to open up questions. That's going to open up possibilities, I think, too. And it and you guys, are I think right in the thick of things in terms of, you guys are just as busy as anybody else in any of the mediums. What usually gets me angry is when I see like used to be an adult animation studio and they spin off to a kids studio. Nothing makes me angrier. Like, hey, we got a studio for kids now, and I'm like, no, I'm not taking it.
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it. I mean, that's the thing, like we are a business, and we do occasionally get kids work.
Sure.
I mean, Hair Love is fun for the whole family, and
yeah.
And the great part about that was how different it was.
Yeah.
It was.
And now you have an Academy Award on your resume of your already amazing.
Yeah, it's wild. So there can be great work done in kids, stuff. I think it's a matter of what kind of intelligence and uniqueness is being brought to it. That's our thing. And we always have to be cognizant of bringing our A game to every project, whether it's for kids or adults or for everybody. I think that's a mistake to think of every project, any project, if it's for kids, that means it's not for adults.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
You look at the Looney Tunes, like there's all kind that was for a general audience, and we kids loved it, and and the adults loved it too. And we don't get any of the jokes anymore because a lot of it came from radio or were things of the time. Like I have no idea what "sold to the American" means, but I know about it because of the Looney Tunes. That was just something that they said all the time, So it's like that. That's I guess the only genre I guess you could say is for kids is preschool.
Yeah.
And
even the term "for kids" is somewhat subjective, right? Because "for kids" in America is going to be different than "for kids" in Japan and "for kids" in Australia.
Definitely.
It's completely,
I
don't know who makes up these rules.
It shouldn't be for kids.
Yes.
It should be for everybody. But then there are certain projects that are not for kids.
Right. Like you're not going to show like your kid Prison Pit. Like you're not.
I'm not.
Well,
I'm not.
And you made it. So.
And I made it. That was so funny. We had a screening of that. It's that the Cine family of Prison Pit during this festival that they did, and we couldn't get a babysitter. So she was in the audience.
Oh wow! How old was she?
Probably 14 or 15.
Oh, all right. Well,
it's okay. hey, I'll tell you, my parents took me to see Heavy Metal in the theater thinking it was a cartoon.
Right.
And you can draw a line from that to Prison Pit.
Yes.
I'm forever grateful of their ignorance of animation at the time. Right. Yes. They just said like, oh, let's take him to see Heavy Metal. It's a cartoon. And I was and thank God they didn't leave, like I was sitting there going like, oh,
this is amazing.
Blew my mind,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But all right, Greg. So as we're closing in on the hour here, any last shout outs to any producers or people you got to work with on Tig Notaro Drawn, which premieres this Friday, July 24th. I think 24th, right? Is it 24th? 24th? 20? Let's say Friday.
It comes out. No, Saturday.
Saturday. That's right. 24th.
24th, 10 p.m.
Yes.
HBO. Then streaming thereafter on HBO Max.
Yes.
And you could occasionally watch it. It'll be rerun.
Yes, sure.
As HBOs want to do, like over and over and over again.
Yes.
So I mean, there are some amazing artists that I would love to give a shout out to. The aforementioned Saharat Tantivaranyu, amazing. I love the work of Brock Gallagher. Who is a longtime cohort of ours.
Huge Brock Gallagher fan. Yes.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
He's the best.
He and I have like a kind of a nerdy blender Slack channel that we do, and he did all the sculpts for the Jenny Slate sequence.
Oh wow.
And actually animated a scene or two in there. I want to give a shout out to the brilliant Yuki Mori. Who designed the Philly story and boarded, did all the layouts. I mean, incredible. incredible talent, one of the funniest people in the industry. God, so many. Mousse Brooker claymation, which gave me all kinds of great, Pee Wee Herman, Sledgehammer Video vibes with his claymation, which I still have yet to see in person. I can't wait to see those statues. Awesome. In digital production, we'd never get to have anything at the end of it. There's no paper.
There's nothing to keep. There's no keepsake. Yeah.
There's no thing, and we finally got a thing. And God, who else? I mean, our great who else, like Unbeal, Cho, amazing design. I know I'm going to forget somebody. Max Johnson, great storyboard artist. Our great overseas, animation, with Ivan Dixon, genius, who worked on a segment, Anima Studios outside Mexico City, fantastic.
Yep.
Incessant Rain in Nepal did all CG work. Lowbrow Studios out of Connecticut.
Lowbrow,
hilarious.
Yep.
Lowbrow.
I know Lowbrow.
Oh yeah. And who am I forgetting? Toon Boom Products. I wasn't expecting to give a list of everybody. It's just a little out of my butt, as far as who I'm remembering right now.
Sure.
But I mean, really, the biggest kudos I would give to like our production team, who really wrangled everything.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, Vera Harani, Francesca Torres, Alex Kennedy, Julia, and they couldn't have been done without them. Obviously, Tig Notaro, everybody at $0.00. And HBO, of course. Was that, and I know I'm forgetting people, and I apologize unreservedly for
with 150 animators working on this, it's going to be easy to forget.
I guess
take solace in the fact that you put together an amazing team in like the weirdest of years, and were able to put together an hour of something that, like I said, really hasn't been done before. On Saturday with Tig Notaro drawn. So Greg,
that's amazing. And Tony Christopherson, I would be remiss to not bring up Tony Christopherson, our amazing editor, main compositor. It just goes on and on. I could stay here for another 20 minutes and be thanking people, but I would be remiss not to bring him up. He is an absolute genius, and could not have been done without him.
Yep. So a fine team you've assembled here, Greg. And,
thank you.
Well, congratulations, and of course we'll be hoping to hear from you again. You guys are always working on something, so I'm sure we will definitely be crossing paths sooner rather than later. So
undoubtedly.
All
right. Well, thank
Greg,
you so much for having me.
Yes. Have a good one.